I have always been a crafty person. I always call myself a Renaissance woman, where I liked all crafts but mastered none of them. But quilting kind of called to me, and it was something that I really felt compelled to do. When I married into my husband's family, I married into a family of quilters, and I didn't quite know that quilting was my passion then, but as I worked with the family and as they helped me develop my skills and come up with, work on progressing my abilities, I found that quilting was just something that brought me joy and really brought me happiness. It wasn't just about creating something, it was about working as a family and creating something. Even if I didn't have them helping me do the pieces, we talked about the pieces, we talked about the colors, we worked together to create art without necessarily putting our hands on other people's art. And that to me brought me a lot of joy. It was like instant new family hugging me and embracing me and including me and making me feel welcomed and loved. So my daughter has been, she's wanted to touch a sewing machine since she was like 4. And she would sit on my lap and help me. I would say, I think when she was about 4, I let her kind of pick out some squares and some fabric, and I worked with her to piece together her first log cabin square. I think that went into Allison's quilt. So she had a love of fabric and creating, and recently she had to do a project for her 2nd grade class on how to do something, and she wanted to create a log cabin quilt square, and she wanted to show people how to do that. We love to sit together and we talk about the colors, and she pulls out fabric and she's like, I want to make this, and she's just expressive, and she doesn't let not knowing stop her from doing something. She just figures it out and goes on, and it's just wonderful to see her grow and use fabric as a medium of art. I like to always learn. I'm always learning something new, and I actually started a small group of long armers to get together, and we talk about different techniques about how to do quilting and things like that. And that to me was great because I was getting a chance to see what other people do and see how I can turn it into something that I can do. I'm always looking for new ways. Right now I'm trying to do some grandmother's flower garden. I have a little limitation because I have carpal tunnel, and so hand quilting is really challenging for me, but it's something I'm really enjoying because I'm still creating something and making something beautiful, even though I'm not proficient and I have a limitation in it. I still push myself. So I'm all about finding ways to do art fast in a way. I have a full-time job, I have 3 kids, I have a husband, I have a house. I have very limited time, and so one of my things that I pride myself on is that I focus, I see an end goal, and I get it done. And I like to do things as time efficient as possible. And so, because I want to make, I want to create, but I can't devote a lot of time to it. So that to me is where I like some of the quilting that I've seen online. Like Terry's quilts, because there's so much to look at. I don't think I've got the ability to do that per se, but I'm always fascinated by some of her work because it's wow, there's so much there. It's you just can keep looking and keep looking and keep seeing and keep seeing. And then I really appreciate some of Pat's work where there's such intention behind it and such beauty and simplicity of it that it just, I can see that and I'm I love that. I don't know that I can take all of those and do them, but I like looking at them, reflecting and utilizing some of them in different ways in my art, I think. As far as what I like to do, really for me it's all about efficiency and trying to really get a quilt done, and if I get a quilt done in a weekend, I feel like I've accomplished my life. You know, like I've done good things if I get something done quickly, and still I feel like it's beautiful, you know. I have always, I'm a children's librarian, and I love my job. And I've always said, if I ever lose my job, because that's a real possibility in this day and age, if I ever lose my job, I'm going to go back to school and be a sign language interpreter, because I love to do sign language, and that's something I can see a need. But in the past, like 3-4 years, I've been reflecting more, and I don't really say that anymore. It's not really true anymore. I still love sign language, but I see a passion for the art of quilting. And so, you know, if I ever lose my job, that's where I'm going to go. I'm going to put, you know, 110% more of my time into quilting and doing that. My mother recently passed away. My mother and father recently passed away 3 years ago. 3 years ago this September. And when they did die, I was left a decent inheritance, and I was able to purchase a long arm sewing machine and finish my sewing studio. My mom was a crafter also. She did more sewing and did more of, you know, she liked to make outfits or make purses and things like that. She didn't really like quilting per se, but she loved being crafty, and we had always kind of talked about starting a family thing together to do some things. But it was different, you know. She didn't get the quilting and I didn't get the handbags, and so it just wasn't perfect yet, you know. Doing my long arming and doing quilting for others, I feel like my mom's with me. I feel like I'm not alone.